Hey guys, Joe here. Welcome to another Dragon Ball FighterZ video, and welcome back to my patch 1.40/1.41 review. And today, we'll be taking a look at Kid Buu. So without further ado, let's get started. Because, holy fuck, we got a lot of changes to cover. The first couple of changes we're going to look at are to the last hit of Kid Buu's auto combo, which, first and foremost, had the distance moved increased. Now goes half screen, which is nice, but the bigger change is it's now an anti-air, like other auto combos in the game, like Bardock, for example. This is a really odd change, but it could potentially lead to some really interesting conversions and situations. Like, for example, just something I came up with. Might not be practical, but who knows? Just kind of an example. I'm not saying it's ideal, but it is possible, so I don't know. Maybe that's practical, maybe it's not. Let's see, but I'm curious to see what the Kid Buu players could make of that. We'll see. Next, let's take a look at his 5M, which now has a faster startup and reduced recovery, which is huge for this character. Because now, at this distance, 5M is 10 frames and -5 on block. But up close, it's 8 frames and -5 on block. Which is huge. Because one of Kid Buu's greatest strengths is his mix-up game, as well as his pressure. And with a faster 5M, he now has access to much faster pressure strings and much faster mix, which is just insane. But not only that, his 5M is also going to be really nice when used in combos because now it's much faster. And with that reduced recovery, that could lead to a lot of possibilities. So overall, a very strong start to the list of changes to a lot of Kid Buu's buttons. A very strong start out of many to come. The next changes we're going to look at are to 5H, which got 3 big changes. A faster startup, reduced recovery, and increased distance move. Starting off, startup, and recovery. 10 frame startup, and a -5 on block. That is incredibly good, but it gets better, because in addition to that, it now goes further. Sure, you need to do it 3 times to be able to hit Gogeta there, but that's still a major improvement. And on top of that, you can now true string with this option. In fact, you could true string with both options, which is even crazier. So overall, really, really good change. Or rather, really good changes. Next, let's talk about Kid Buu's 2M, which got 2 very recognizable changes. Faster startup and reduced recovery. So there are 3 versions of Kid Buu's 2M. There's 3M, 2M, and 1M. Starting with 3M, it's 15 frames and -5 on block. For 2M, 15 frames and -5 on block. For 1M, 10 frames startup and -5 on block. This is unbelievably good, because if you decide to start your pressure string from afar, this is what it would look like. Again, it would fucking true string. And on top of that, even that would true string. All of that true strings, which is insane. Because this again ultimately adds to Kid Buu's pressure, which combined with his incredible mix is incredibly strong now, thanks to these faster and much safer options. This is just incredible, because now this gives Kid Buu, you know, a lot more options on block. And he doesn't have to worry about getting opened up for a punish because his buttons are too slow. Which is unbelievably incredible. The next changes we're going to look at are to 2S, which got reduced recovery and reduced landing recovery, which, yes, there is a difference. Reduced recovery is how long it takes you to recover from doing a move, which is especially prevalent on whiff, right? That's your recovery frames. Landing recovery refers to the recovery frames you have when landing on the ground. That's basically what that means. Even after doing an air move, right? And now, with both reduced on 2S, which for the record pops Kid Buu up, you are now much more plus on block. +8 at that distance, and up close, +3, which is insane. And another thing I want to mention is falling aerials, because yes, now you can combo out of this into this and make yourself super plus on block. But because you recover so fast, it is a pretty tight link, so you gotta be ready for that. But there are a lot of options here at your disposal. I mean, obviously JH is an option, but a better option is JL, because you become even more plus on block. And considering Kid Buu has a 6-frame normal, that ultimately means you can convert it to that, like that, but if you try to do JL, it pushes them a little too far back, so you can't really convert that, which looks like this. Yeah, you just barely missed them, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But you can do this. If you can't do that, you can always do that, because you have just enough frames of advantage to pull that off, which means you could potentially true screen that, like that, which is crazy. But of course that's just mid-screen, right? In the corner it gets even crazier, because you can stay close enough to hit a JL and then hit a 5L, which means you could potentially loop your block string, which would look like this. Right? Just as an example. Just to kind of give you some examples, but if you really want to loop it, something like that. So you've got options, but this ultimately makes Kid Buu's corner pressure much stronger, which is absolutely insane. And combined with the changes to his mediums, this ultimately makes this change even more insane. And of course also 5H's change, which adds even more to that, because now it can just true string. So overall, this is a really nice change for Kid Buu, because it's going to add a lot, and I do mean a lot, to his corner pressure. Especially since, again, you could just loop it, if you're quick enough with the JL after the 2S anyways, but the option's there. But yeah, this is a really nice change. Next up is JM, which got the same changes as 5M, a faster startup and reduced recovery, which means from that range you are +10, and up close, +8, and you're -4 on block up close, but from afar, well, depending on where you hit the JM at, you could either be plus or minus. Like that. That's something I should probably mention. I don't know if I mentioned that before in the when I was talking about 2S, but depending on where an air button hits on the opponent, that'll determine how much block stun they have when you land. So, for example, that's 6 frames. That's 3 frames. That's 5. That's 8. That's 9. That's 10. That's 11. So, with this option, you will potentially be very minus on block, but you also have the chance to make it safer, depending on where you land. So, knowing when to use this is very important. But overall, it being faster and having reduced recovery definitely helps it a lot, and makes it a much safer option depending on where you hit this button from. Which means, of course, you have that option, but you also have that at your disposal, as well as that at your disposal. Which means, of course, you can then hit that confirm. And I've been waiting to use that confirm because now this just grants... You remember that bit of corner pressure I showed you earlier? Yeah, Kid Buu gets access to that with that specific string. 2S into JM into JH. And it all fucking true strings, which is insanity, but it's so cool. And yes, this is to some degree easier than doing the JL, which ultimately means if you're in the corner, which means if you are in the corner, you can loop this a lot easier. So, that's insane, but it's so good. Obviously, of course, I do also need to mention that these changes definitely do help with Kid Buu's combo game. That's a given, but Kid Buu's pressure is just way too much fun, and it's the biggest thing about this character aside from his insane mix, which he can now do much more properly thanks to these changes and the upcoming changes. But as you can clearly see, Kid Buu has no shortage of options on block now, thanks to these buffs, which is just completely insane. And being able to loop corner pressure like that is just bonkers beyond fuck. So, yeah, very good change, and a very necessary one indeed. The next changes to talk about are to J2H, which is now faster and has reduced recovery. 34 frames of recovery on whiff, 12 frame startup, and -7 on block. This actually isn't too bad. And could definitely lead to some very interesting pressure strings, which I'll get into more in a minute when I talk about the next change, because the next changes coming up are really good as well. And they're really going to do a lot more for Kid Buu's pressure, just as this will. But this isn't just good for pressure reasons, of course. Combo reasons are also the other factor. So, you know, not much to say, it's just a really nice change. The next two changes I'm going to talk about in tandem because both moves got the same change, reduced landing recovery. And that's specifically for JS and J2S. Both of which now let Kid Buu recover much faster. Which means, on block, you are plus on block. And again, the same principle applies. Depending on where you hit, with an air button, that'll determine how plus you are when you hit the ground. And with this change, not just to JS, but also J2S, you are again plus, super plus on block. Right? So you've got that. But the reason I'm bringing both of these up in tandem is because if you're in the corner, again, and you do, let's say this, you are now plus on block. And because you're plus 9, a 6-frame normal of any kind, or even a 7-frame normal like 2L, that is going to allow you to continue your pressure. And this is just, again, insanity. Because your pressure strings can just keep going for fucking ages. So, what do you want me to tell you? It just gets even crazier, especially if you chain JS into J2S, which you can definitely do. Which gives you even more options. So, needless to say, this is an incredible change, both to JS and J2S, which now grants Kid Buu a lot more stuff in the corner. And as for mid-screen, I haven't even checked mid-screen. Let's see. You've got stuff. Not so much with them together, as far as I can see. But you can use them independently of each other, and it'll work. So you've got that at least. So overall, these two the changes to JS and J2S are really, really good, and very much welcome for a character like Kid Buu. But the list goes on, and the next change to look at is to the medium version of Mystic Ball attack, which now has a alternate variant if you hold back. So this is what the regular variant looks like. 17 frame startup with -4 on block. But if you hold back now, it's a 24 frame startup, so it's slower, but it makes you more plus on block. And you know what that means. Well, if you don't fucking do that like an idiot. You've got some pretty nice block strings mid-screen, which is definitely going to do a lot of favors. And yes, that does. It does true string if you do connect the light. If you can connect it, anyways. Not exactly the easiest feat. Kind of a tricky thing. And of course, obviously in the corner you can also make great use of it. don't really think I need to say too much on that, but yeah, this is a really nice change for Kid Buu. And yes, obviously there are, of course, combo implications for the move, but this is just going to be really good on block, and as a strong mix-up option for Kid Buu to use at his disposal, as well as a strong pressure tool to keep his pressure going. So yeah, overall, really nice change. The next change to talk about is to Mystic Arm Swing, aka the Command Grab, which now has less recovery on whiff. The light version I just did is now minus 40 on whiff. The medium version is also minus 40 on whiff, and the EX version is minus 31 on whiff. So these are nice changes. How much they're really going to do overall, I don't know, but this is still good for Kid Buu regardless, in some way, shape, or form. The next couple of changes are to Arm Ball, which got two very nice changes. A faster startup and reduced recovery. Wow, haven't heard that one before. But still, for Arm Ball, one of Kid Buu's best mix-up tools, this is extremely good, especially considering now it has a 33 frame startup, which is really good. And in addition to that, like I said, it has reduced recovery, which means you have way more options to pressure. So this is a really, really good change for Kid Buu because, like I said, Arm Ball is one of his best mix-up options, and to have it not only be faster but allow you to recover faster as well, to make more use out of it, is going to do the character so many goddamn favors, which is just completely incredible. So, very, very happy with this change. The next change is to Candy Beam, which now lets you heal back more blue life. And for those of you who don't know what blue life is, let me show you. See that little bit of blue next to the health bar? That's blue life. That can be healed back. And Candy Beam was the way to do that. And now you can heal back more than you normally do. That's just enough of a comparison, but anyways, doesn't matter. Point is, you can now heal back more blue health, which is really nice. The next change is to Human Extinction Attack, aka Kid Buu's level 1, which now has reduced delay. So as you saw there, you can now basically start to attack again sometime after the super has played out, which is pretty crazy. So, pretty interesting change. I'm curious to see what players are going to make about it. And the last change that Kid Buu received this patch is to his other level 1, Pearl Flash, which now is a faster startup. And up close, it is now 8 frames, which is crazy, but still a really nice change, and it'll allow this super to connect a lot more easily. And with that, we have covered all of the changes that Kid Buu has received this patch, and my god, while I don't play Kid Buu personally, these changes definitely make me consider wanting to pick him up, because this character's changes were well overdue and very, very good. They're gonna help out his they're gonna help out his game a lot, and they're gonna allow him to play his game more properly than he ever could before, which is just fantastic. This is what Kid Buu's been needing. However, it's not all that he needs, because considering where the game is at in its current state, Kid Buu definitely could use a little bit more. As for what more I would give him, well, let's talk about that. So now we've come to the last part of the video where I cover all of the changes that I personally would make to the character. And while the list isn't as crazy as Ginyu's, it's still a pretty decently sized list of changes that I would make, most of which being buffs. But with that said, let's jump right into exactly what those changes are, or rather what they would be. The first change I would make to Kid Buu, or rather the first changes I would make are to his 2L. The first change I would make to it would be to make it a 6-frame normal rather than have it as a 7-frame normal. And secondly, I would give it a change similar to what Android 18 has and give it a reduced knockback. This way, if I chain 2L into itself, you stay gapless. Then there's Candy Beam, which I would give 2 changes. The first of which being if you use it as a combo starter. As you saw there, Gogeta just kinda gets flung out and recovers. What I would do instead is, if you use this as a combo starter, I would prefer to have this be a combo starter by giving the Kid Buu a ground bounce after performing it. But only when using it as a combo starter. So that this way, Kid Buu actually has more of a use for this rather than, you know, for combo at the end of his using it at the end of his combos or for mix. Right? It would give it more utility. And the second change I would make is taking Candy Beam off of the 236S input and putting it instead on a 6S input. The reason I would do that is because of this. Kid Buu's Kamehameha, which is air exclusive by the way, and does not have a grounded variant. That's where 236S would come in, because I would replace Candy Beam with a grounded version of Kid Buu's own Kamehameha. This way he'd be able to utilize a grounded beam if need be, and on top of that, he would be able to, you know, obtain more combos out of a change like that as well. The next changes I would like to see are to all versions of Mystic Arm Swing, aka his command grabs. The biggest change I would like to see is each of them getting a faster startup, with the light and heavy version getting a 10-frame startup and the medium version getting a 15-frame startup. Speaking of command grabs though, I would like to see Kid Buu get a brand new unique command grab attached to his 6H, one where he takes his head appendage and spins the opponent around before throwing them against the wall for a wall bounce and being able to combo off of it. I know it probably sounds like a crazy idea, but the only way I could see being able to combo off of these being possible is if you made the medium and EX version grant a ground bounce. Especially the EX version, but also the medium version. I think if those two granted a ground bounce after you catch somebody out of the air, I think, or even just having the ground bounce in general, I think that would make the moves a lot better. But I would still also like to see Kid Buu get a unique command grab of his own with a 6H input. The next change I would like to see is to Kid Buu's level 3, which is Planet Burst, which, as it currently stands, can only hit one person. So if if they call an assist, right? If the opponent calls an assist, so as you saw there, I had Gogeta call Lab Coat, and as you saw, Lab Coat just disappeared after Kid Buu's level 3 connected. This basically means that Planet Burst cannot Happy Birthday, or even Merry Christmas for that matter, and the change I would make is to amend that, and have the move be able to hit multiple opponents at once. And now we come to Kid Buu's assists. Starting with his A assist, I would like to see this move get a faster startup, because as it currently stands, it has a 57-frame startup, and I would like to see that reduced from a 57-frame startup to a 50 or 45-frame startup, making the move faster and more reliable because of it. Then there's B assist. And as for B assist, first of all, the startup on this is 22 frames compared to the 20 frames of a, you know, regular lariat. And I think this assist could use a faster startup, bringing it from 22 frames to 20 frames, and the block stun I think should be increased from 32 frames to 35 frames, evening out with other lariat style assists in the game. And last but not least, there's C assist. And what I would like to see for C assist is A, a faster startup, and B, more block stun. I would like to see the startup of the move go from 35 frames to 30, and the block stun go from 30 frames to 35 frames. So basically do the inverse with the block stun and the startup of the assist. And with that, those are all the changes I would personally make to Kid Buu. That was a lot, but compared to the Ginyu video, it was definitely easier. I'd say that was more on Trunks' level, if I'm honest, but regardless, those are all the changes I would make to Kid Buu. So, to recap, 2L. I would make that a 6-frame normal with reduced knockback, similar to Android 18. Candy Beam I would have provide a ground bounce if you use it as a combo starter and apply it to the 6S input. I would have a grounded Kamehameha be put in the 236S input in place of Candy Beam. I would have the light and medium version of Mystic Arm Swing be 10 frames, with the medium version being 15 frames, and the medium and EX versions providing a ground bounce to combo off of, or confirm into a super out of, as well as getting a new 6H command grab, which again has Kid Buu's head appendage grab the opponent, spin them around, and throw them against the wall to cause a wall bounce and get a combo off of it. I would like to see his level 3 Planet Burst be able to hit multiple opponents at once. I would like to see A assist get sped up to either 50 or 45 frames. B assist I would like to see get 35 frames of block stun and have a 20 frame startup. And C assist I would like to see have a 30 frame startup and 35 frames of block stun. Whew, that was a mouthful, but that pretty much is everything I would change about Kid Buu, and with that, thus concludes this video. So, next time, we are going to talk about Majin Buu, which will be exciting. So, until then, don't do anything stupid and take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye.